And we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our useless event room. We have the awesome Josh Garofalo today, SaaS consultant, strategist, position expert, copywriter, one of my favorite SaaS people ever. And we have Josh today to critique live landing pages for SaaS companies. Hey, Josh.
How's it going, Jane?
Tell us what you do. A little bit more about your services and why you're the best person to do this.
Sure, yeah. So, I don't even know how many landing pages I've looked at over the years, but since 2015, I've worked with probably close to 100 SaaS companies at this point, including many that you never would have heard of and some that you would have, like HubSpot and Wave, Hotjar, Unbounce, and a whole bunch of others. So I'm typically working with either well-funded SaaS companies or bootstrap companies that actually have a viable product and paying customers, which it seems like that the latter is going to be who we're mostly speaking to today, which is perfect because I think there is so much opportunity for them to disrupt some of the big players. So I'm excited to talk a little bit about that. And then in terms of what I typically do, you did a good job of explaining it. But if I really had to boil it down, it's that customer competitor research that allows us to do something that I like to call telling the category story, which I'll talk about a little bit because I see some opportunities for that with the landing pages I chose today. And then actually writing copy for some of those core assets. So the landing pages, the web pages that are really close to the sign up or sale, and the emails that are close to the sign up sale or the upsell.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear your insights about positioning because
Mm-hmm.
it's when you're in the inside of a SaaS, it's so tough to judge how well you're explaining what your product does, and that's so crucial, isn't it?
It is. And I guess the big problem too is that when you're inside, it's easy to think that your prospects think about your product category as much as you do, but they don't. They're just looking for something to solve some problems. And so that's usually why people bring me in. It's not because they don't know their product well enough. It's because they know it too well and they've got that curse of knowledge and they need some help getting out from under it.
Awesome. So for today, we've collected quite a number of signups. For the teardowns, we're gonna try and do maybe 3, 4. Let's see what the time shows. So
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to critique like that, what will you be looking at today? What are the criteria?
Yeah, so this is going to be a little bit different than what I would do for a client because I obviously haven't gone in and interviewed customers like I would for a client or surveyed them or anything like that. So I always like to have a little bit of humility when I'm going into this. So I'm not going to rip apart specific word choices because I just don't have the data to say that you're doing it wrong. Instead, what I'm going to look for are some higher level teaching moments that I think the people whose pages I'm going to be reviewing will benefit from, but anyone who hasn't actually submitted a page, I hope that when you look at these reviews, you'll be able to look at your page and get some ideas for some things that would be worth testing and changing.
Awesome. Well, let's get things going. And our first landing page for the teardown is Nusi, the
Yeah.
proposal software. And please do pull up your screen and let's get the
All
thing
right. I'm going to
started.
share my screen and then I'm going to minimize this. So if there's any comments or anything, I won't see that. So Jane, if you can let me know if there's a comment, that would be great.
Yeah, I'm also going to be looking up my keeping my eye on the chat and on the attendee list. If I see the founder, I don't see the founder. I don't see Mike
Okay.
right now. But if you see your site being torn down, let us know in the chat. We'll put you up so that there can be a conversation.
For sure. And I don't think I spoke about this, but one thing that's prominent in this space is copywriters who just tear into pages without the background story. So I'm not doing that today. These are suggestions. I'm going to be asking you questions that I hope you can take back and find answers for, but by no means am I here to embarrass anybody. Um, yeah, so I guess some of the backstory for this page that I got was that it's been about 5 years since it was updated. And so when I see that, and especially in SaaS where things are changing so quickly, my first thought is I wonder if the context has changed. And I believe as an outsider, it probably has. And this could be the reason that you're seeing declining conversion rates over the years. So, for example, 5 years ago, proposal software was interesting in itself. Then you were proposal software for creative agencies. You were probably one of the few, if not the only one, calling yourself that at the time. And so that was probably enough to sort of set yourself apart and pique the curiosity of your prospect. And I guess my question would be, is this still the case? Or do you have to go a little bit deeper and say, what it is about your product that makes it especially suitable for creative agencies. So that's more of a question than a suggestion, but it's just something to think about. Context change, and if the headline is actually still powerful enough. Either way, I think it's a great start. I like that you're at least choosing a niche. As from what I understand to be a bootstrapped company, I think that's critical. So you're doing that part right. And then still on the topic of if the context has changed 5 years ago, and maybe this is still the case, but I don't think it is. Agencies were trying to get out from using Word and PDFs and tools that weren't made for proposals such as InDesign. I'm wondering if that's still the case, or if your prospect is either already using proposal software, perhaps proposal software that's not meant specifically for creative agencies, or they're at least considering it. They've heard of the big players in the space. And so I think we need to do better than to show agencies how this is better than InDesign, PDFs, and Word. And we need to show them that it's better than the obvious choices in the space. The first company that comes to mind for me is like Proposify, for example. Why shouldn't I just choose Proposify? I think that's an important question that this company, Newsy, and most of the others also have to answer. It's not just why we're good enough to be in your decision set. It's why we're a good choice and we're better than the other choices that you're obviously thinking about already.
When you do that, can you name actual competitor names? Is that polite or legal?
Legal, I mean, you would have to speak to your legal team. I can't see anyone coming after you unless you're making a claim about that other company that is untrue. But I mean, there's lots of good examples of companies that have either explicitly or been a little bit more subtle about who they're speaking about. So if you want to look at use, I think their website would be Use Fathom Analytics or Use Fathom Analytics, led by Paul Jarvis. If you look at their site, they're very clearly attacking things like Google Analytics. If you look at hey.com, very clearly attacking things like Gmail and Superhuman and things of that nature. So their product is a reaction to something that they're seeing that the incumbents are doing. I know when you started, I think you've shifted from it, but your user list was very much a reaction to the complaints around intercom, especially from your target customer. So yeah, I think it's at least something to consider. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Thanks for the detour.
Yeah. Yeah. So less time, I see less time here. And for me, and I think this less time claim makes perfect sense when we're talking about Word, InDesign, PDFs. But I think now that's just par for the course. Like that's table stakes. If your proposal software isn't saving me time, there's a real problem there and you probably shouldn't exist. So I would assume that your proposal software is going to save me time. But as a creative agency, what I think I would hope for is that your proposal software is going to showcase my company's ability to actually create. I don't want to come off as like a branding agency and then send you some boring proposal. I want it to be a sales tool, an extension of who I am, because for some of the decision makers for your customers' clients, the proposal will be their first and perhaps only interaction with your customer's brand, and so it's important for that to look good. So it might be time for a bit of a shift there as well. Number 4, small point, and I think I see this through some of the other landing pages as well. If there's a place to, I guess you could say, like de-risk the click, tell me what's on the other side of it. How long is this trial? Is it full featured? Am I giving you my credit card? That can help. Just make it more predictable, but what's going to happen next? And number 5 here, it's just kind of floating, but what I'm trying to say here is, this hero section, the section that everyone's going to see, it gives me zero insight into what a proposal made with Newsy is going to look like. as a creative agency, I'm going to probably be very much guided by what I see on your site. And I want to see that. And I actually think that if you're targeting something like a creative agency, your site should be the envy of your customers. They should look at your site and be like, wow, like I want my site to look like that. I think that's really important because it reflects it. At least I have some preconceived notions of what it's going to look like when I log into Newsy and actually create a proposal. And it's not good based on what I'm seeing above the fold here. So just sort of reiterating, I think we can save a little bit of time here. Number 6, again, this is the part I'd be leaning into, I think. You can back it up with some customer interviews and surveys, but beautiful proposals that are going to allow me to charge the premium rates that my agency wants to charge. That I think should be the focus. The saving time, less of a focus for sure. Doesn't mean you can't say it. I just wouldn't make it the star. And here again, I think we run into some problems with the fact that this is a 5-year-old page. So proposal notifications, that might have been really cool 5 years ago. Now, I feel like most proposal software that I've looked at does this. It doesn't mean you shouldn't feature it on the page at all. It just means this probably shouldn't be the first thing that we're talking about. My main goal, if you were my client, I would want to make sure that I'm using this homepage to show people what is unique about Newsy for the creative agency. The things that the other proposal companies, the Proposifys of the world that are trying to capture every single customer they can possibly get, there's no way they're going to copy it because they would be alienating too much of their market. So that is what I would be focusing on this page, and understanding that for most people, things like proposal notifications, saving time, table stakes, mention it, but don't give it the starring role. This see pricing and plans call to action. This is probably applicable to anyone who's listening here. I've watched more recorded sessions than I care to admit. And one thing that is very frustrating is that people will land on your homepage and then click right to pricing without even looking at what it is you do and who you do it for. So they don't need your help to go see plans and pricing. And I wouldn't encourage people to go there, especially this early in the site. Like, what is it about proposal notifications that is going to make someone think like, oh God, I need this. Like, let's see how much this is going to cost. So I would keep the call to actions consistent here and focused on getting them to actually sign up. Let's see, number 10 here. Again, I think we've got another context problem here. 5 years ago, being able to change some of the colors on your proposal and some of the branding would have been new. Now this isn't as unique, and I imagine you've probably gone a little bit deeper. Instead, I liked how on some of your other pages that look a little bit newer, you talk about things like being able to incorporate video. I think that's really important. If you can talk about how you turn your typical boring proposal into a good reflection of your work as a creative agency and actually like a sales brochure that helps you close more and bigger deals and back that up, I think that would be really powerful. This, I feel, is probably a little bit out of date now. Not a critique at all. Number 11 here, I like how you're using your tight positioning. So one mistake that I'll often see with a bootstrapped SaaS company is they will call out their very specific niche, and then the rest of the copy on their website or on their page, you could just chop off their brand name, and it could be used for any of the broad, more generic pieces of software in their space. Whereas this is talking about billable hours. And so anytime you have that opportunity, once you've chosen, a specific niche, like drill into it. Don't be afraid to get specific. And it might take more words, but if you're speaking to the right people and you're using the words that they care about and you're talking about things they care about, they will read. And so this is just a little example of that. There's other examples throughout the page. But anytime you see an opportunity to make your copy more specific to the people you're targeting, definitely go for it. Number 12, again, see pricing and plans. I don't think we need to put people on that page. They will find it themselves, unfortunately, sooner than you want them to. Which I guess side note, there was no pricing pages submitted. But one thing to consider is that This is a very common user pattern. Someone lands on your site, they click right to pricing. And so oftentimes they're looking at your prices without any real idea of what it is you offer in terms of product, features, and value. And so one thing that I like to do is assume people are going to do this no matter how hard I try to have them not do it. And then on the pricing page, I'll include things like, the top 3 to 6 capabilities or features or benefits that our customers enjoy when they sign up. And then I'll support that with, 1 or 2 quotes above the pricing table that talk about money saved, time saved, more money made, things that shrink the price. So that if someone does that thing where they land on the site and they click right to pricing, they have a high level idea of what it is we do, and that we actually provide value above and beyond the price that they're going to see in the pricing table. So that's just something to consider. Let's see here. 13.
Is this is this a good place? Is this a good place to way to showcase testimonials? Because I always like debate: shall we make them short? Shall we make them long? Shall we link to the case studies or not? Shall we drive people there or not?
Definitely. So one thing that you're going to see across a bunch of pages in general, and I think perhaps all 4 that I'm going to be speaking about today, the testimonials tend to get lumped. And so I've made a comment here, for example, up until 75% down through the page. So if you've ever looked at things like heat maps and scroll maps, that so many people have already left. They're gone to another page like the pricing page, or they've already left your website. This is the first sign that you actually have a paying customer, and we're 75% down the page. And the testimonials are just kind of lumped into a testimonial section. What I prefer to see are what I like to call contextual social proof. So rather than just creating this little social proof spot, when we make a claim about, say, being able to create a proposal that actually showcases your creative agency's ability to create, I would want to back that up with a testimonial that actually reiterates what I've said. And so one thing that does is it makes that claim more believable. The other thing is we can create a pattern where we say something and then a customer backs it up. We say something, a customer backs it up. And then when we keep saying things, it's believable because we've kind of shown that we don't just, make stuff up. This is stuff that our customers are saying, and we're just sharing it with you. So yeah, instead of packing it into a little spot like this, I would want to sprinkle it throughout the site to back up claims that I'm making. And if you are going to create a section that is just testimonials, I would take a look at what companies like Basecamp has done, and some other ones where they just bombard you with social proof, knowing you're not going to read it all. But the point is that you're going to see so much social proof that they're obviously credible, and there's a bunch of paying customers. So that's the only time I would really recommend lumping together a bunch of social proof like we have here. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. And I think this comes up on more than one page as well. So it's great that you're showing who you connect with via Zapier, but I think you can go a little bit further. And if you were to speak to your customers, you'd probably find that, a few of the integrations account for most of the value. And so if you can kind of pull those out and help people imagine what they're going to be able to do with these integrations, it doesn't mean you don't mention the other ones, but it just means you kind of put the spotlight on some of the big ones that a prospect might come to your site and see those and be like, okay, I can imagine using this tool. And so if you have that opportunity, I would definitely go for it. So I wouldn't require scrapping this section. It would just be pulling some of these out and providing a little bit more detail. 18 here, unless I'm missing something, I'm not overly concerned with the number of countries that would use the software. That's kind of the nice thing about software, is that it works wherever you are. Instead, I would want to know that you are serving creative agencies like mine. So maybe share something about the types of agencies that you're supporting, whether that's vertical or size. I think that would be a lot more useful for me, unless I'm missing something. If there's something special about it that makes your software especially useful for like European clients, for example, then that's probably something that'd be worth featuring further up the page as a key differentiator. And last but not least, just a small little note here. This could still like continue to be a 5-day drip campaign, but if you provide people the opportunity in the first email to get the rest of it all at once, then we can sort of spice this up a little bit and talk about getting this lesson now versus having to wait until 5 days from now before I'll know how to win more projects. So that's just a small idea that we can incorporate. It wouldn't require too much change on your end, but it would allow us to talk about an immediate benefit versus waiting 5 days to learn something that probably doesn't take 5 days to consume.
This matches with the common, rule of thumb when you're thinking of a good lead magnet, and that is something that is can be consumed immediately versus something gives work to people. In your case, you didn't like the 5 days, or it could be a book that will be sitting on your shelf for ages, or something. So a report trumps a book, for example, and a little cheat sheet or checklist trumps something bigger as well. Or maybe that's old. I don't know, but
No,
makes sense.
definitely. And yeah, like I said, I don't think this requires a massive change. It would just be by allowing them to get everything at once. If they want it, then you can change this to not being a 5-day wait. It can be immediate, which is, like you said, we're all a bunch of monkeys and we like things now.
We have a question from Ben
Sure.
related to the pricing page
Right.
problem. And he asks if we could just move the pricing link out of the main top navigation and have it in the footer. Is that good? Or do you still let people get their pricing page?
You can, and I've been seeing some more companies do this. In fact, the one company that I already mentioned there, Paul Jarvis's company, Use Fathom Analytics, they do exactly this. And I haven't actually seen enough tests to know how it works, if it frustrates people or if it does do a good job of keeping them on the page. But I think it could be worth testing. It makes sense, at least hypothetically. And I would be curious to see how that works.
It's all up for testing, actually, for any business. It might be that your customer is different from Fathom Analytics and vice versa.
Definitely. And I mean, for a lot of these companies, it's not going to be an A/B test because it'll take you like 6 months to reach statistical significance. But if you just activate something like Hotjar on your site and see how people are interacting with your site before and after the change, take a look and see if more people are, actually staying on the page and consuming the full story versus just jumping right to pricing and comparison shopping.
Great advice. Shall we move on to the next one?
Yes. Let's see here. Let's do, I think this is Auto Idle.
Let's do auto idle. Yeah. So
do we have them on the call?
Let's see. Should be Stefan. Stefan, if you're here, can you please drop a line in the chat?
Either way, I'll keep moving because I realize I blabbed on far too long on that page.
Sorry, I made it longer with the questions.
Yeah, no problem. I kind of anticipated that, and I still overestimated what we'd be able to get into a 1-hour call. So I will try to move through these a little bit quicker. But and I think that's okay because what you're going to see is a lot of recurring themes, and so I won't go into the same depth every time. So the one concern that they had for this page was that they're focused on developers and they feel like they're having a hard time being taken seriously. And I think one thing they have working against them is this illustration style. Now, I'm not a designer, so I could be off base here, but when I see this type of illustration, I'm thinking marketing software. This type of styling is what we're seeing in marketing software, whereas, this to me is far more powerful than that illustration, especially if you were to highlight some of these things like total money saved, estimated monthly savings, and things of that nature. So screenshots, videos, GIFs over illustrations. I think will work
As a
well for you.
designer, I have to make a side note. These are incredibly hard to produce and get right. Like because the typical screenshot, it's boring and it really looks bad. So you've got to make some, simplified and designified version that really highlights the value. And it's not easy. So don't think it's just plugging in screenshots. It's not that.
No, definitely. And one of the people, I'm just going to jump to them very quickly, I think does a really good job with some of their screenshots. I really like how they're marking them up and drawing your attention to key points here. This is Delight Chat. So same here. I really like how
Beautiful.
they're doing this. I feel like they really executed well there. So that might be something to look at. Take a look at how Delight Chat is doing it. Obviously, don't copy everything about it, but the idea behind it, I think, is good. So yeah, visual language, I think, could be one place that you'd make an improvement. I don't even know if is that the right term, visual language. You're the designer. Yeah. So I guess one thing I noticed was that when I click on the calculator that you have on your site, you make a promise of 50% savings. And so if that is actually a promise, whereas if they don't save 50% on their bill as it relates to staging and review apps in a month, they don't pay. We need to like pull that right out. That needs to be above the fold because in copywriting, there's just nothing more powerful than a great offer matched with a great guarantee. That's why you see it in all of those infomercials. It's extremely powerful. So if you are able to actually back that up, yeah, we've got to get that into the headline and subheadline there.
If only it cut 50 from the general Heroku bill, that'd be nice.
Oh yeah, that'd be amazing. That'd be amazing. But I mean, when you look at the pricing table, there is some substantial savings. I do have some recommendations around their pricing table, which I'll get to. But yeah, just an example here. I mean, this is not final copy, but if you were able to actually guarantee this, you can say things like save 50% of your costs on Heroku staging and review apps guaranteed. That tells me what you're going to give me, what it is you do, and the fact that it's guaranteed in a pretty short headline, which is awesome. And then the subheadline will just expand on that and reiterate that guarantee, which a lot of people, when I submit copy, they'll say, but you've already said that. Why are you saying it again? You've got to say the most important things multiple times in different ways. It's just the way it is. People aren't taking it all in. They're not reading this like a storybook. And so they're skipping around. And if they skip around, you want to make sure that they will definitely get the most important points. Alrighty, moving on down. So one thing I mentioned here is this feels a little bit disjointed. I feel like this is all supposed to be working together, and I feel like it's this this divider that comes in between them. Could be just me, but this kind of felt like it was floating there. Alrighty. Nothing negative here. I just said that I really like how you're calling out the problem. Again, this design, I just feel like this is more marketing, sales, software oriented. I don't think developers are going to be as impressed by it. I would stick to things like figures, graphs, well-designed screenshots, GIFs, videos.
Is there an example of a brand that targets developers real well in terms of visual language, etc.?
Trying to think off the top of my head. I can't think of one off the top of my head. I'll have to get back
No
to you on that.
problem. Maybe if you think of one, that'd be great because many of our listeners do work with developers as customers. So
yeah, I mean, a big example, and I wouldn't copy too much from them because they're just in a whole different league, would be Stripe, for example. Yeah, I really like their design. It would probably cost a lot of money to reproduce what they did, but you can probably take some hints from what they've done. And I don't think they have this unless their website has changed recently.
you don't have to tear away their entire design, but for example, things that I don't know, some blog typography, how they organize their docs, stuff like that takes. Don't reinvent the wheel. Just go look what they do, for example.
Definitely. And I don't know if this is the case here, if it is complicated enough to warrant it. But one thing I've seen happen with clients that focus, if not entirely on developers, at least in part, is having really well-designed like help docs and product documentation is pretty key. It's amazing how many developers will be like, okay, nice marketing website. I'm going right into the docs and I'll figure out exactly what this does on my own. So don't overlook that.
For SEO, put those into your main domain, not on the subdomain. very short piece of advice.
Definitely.
Sorry,
Um,
we're detouring, but it's
no
good.
problem. This is good because we both have different skill sets. So there's certain things that you can point out that I wouldn't. For me, again, if I'm focusing on developers, I'd want to move this how it works section up a little bit so that it's a developer who lands on the website can quickly see, okay, I'm going to press this button to install it. And then these are the steps I'm going to go through. And, a few minutes from now, I'm going to start saving money. I'd want to show that. And if you can back that up with social proof or a short demo video or something of that nature, that would be even better. Because again, the developer, for good reason, tends to be more skeptical than your typical buyer. And so anything you can do to show them that this is actually going to do what you say it's going to do, and this isn't just a bunch of marketing hyperbole, the better. Again, contextual social proof. This is kind of floating here, which is better than nothing, but I would rather see this attached to some of your claims because it kind of this testimonial really encompasses what a lot of people care about. It seems they want to be able to press install and forget about it and just start saving money. So anytime we can show, I just realized it's the founder of Newsy, so it's it's like a full circle moment here. But yeah, so anytime you have a chance to show that that the two main promises are actually delivered on, the better. So let's move this up the page. Just a small thing. Most people probably won't care, but developers might. I see this asterisk, but I don't see it explained anywhere else. So you either remove this if it doesn't need to be there, or if it is there, maybe at least tell me, why it's there. What else do I need to know about this figure? This calculator, super powerful. If you were to watch your recorded sessions or your scroll map, you will notice that I would imagine at least half of the people have already dropped off by the time they get here. Whereas you have this really handy calculator that, at least from the outside looking in, looks to be quite accurate and telling of what people can expect to save. I would want to actually, move this up the page and maybe make it as a secondary call to action above the fold, so that if people aren't ready to install right away, they can press this calculator, scroll to the section below it. The calculator wouldn't be hidden behind a click. It would just be out in the open. I think there's like 3 variables, if I remember correctly, that you kind of put on a slider, and then you get a really good idea of what you can expect to save each month. I would definitely move that up.
Would you just embed it instead of having it on a separate page?
Yeah, exactly. Right now, I think it's on a separate page. So you click it, then you go to another page. Whereas I think this calculator is simple enough, like it's not an overwhelming calculator, that it should just be on the page.
We've got a side question from Eric about why documentation should be on the main site. Their documentation has more content than their marketing site, and they've been concerned about it overpowering or competing with the main site. Well, it definitely it's not my advice, but I've heard it many times from SEO experts. It expands your content footprint as an authority, as the biggest reason, number one. Also, it becomes searchable. Do you know of other reasons why it's beneficial, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an SEO expert either. So if the worry is that you don't want this to have any effect on SEO, I believe there'd be a way to make it so that it's not crawled. Is that right? I don't
You
even
can
touch
do this with
SEO.
any content. Yeah, you
Yeah,
can do this
so
anyways.
you could do that, but the main reason that I would have it on the site as someone who's focused on copywriting and conversions is that I've just noticed when it is on a site, developers are very quick, oftentimes, to click into the documentation and figure it out from there. And my hypothesis is that they are slightly skeptical of a lot of marketing messaging out there, for good reason, because there are a lot of marketers that go overboard and overpromise, just like a lot of salespeople will sometimes go overboard and overpromise. So if they can go in the documentation as a technical person, they will be able to see exactly what the product can and can't do, and they'll decide whether or not it matches their use case. So I don't think it should be either or, but if you have really good documentation in a fairly complex product, it just gives developers a chance to skip out of the marketing content and into the stuff that they care about the most, versus just writing it off and be like, oh, this is just a marketing play. I'm going to go to these other guys who have good documentation.
From the design standpoint, if you have custom docs on your own site, you can work more on custom calls to action for each page. Whereas if you're just using third-party platform, you rarely have this opportunity to do like, at least a big default call to action at the bottom, like watch a demo or sign up, something to leave the email or actually
Mm-hmm.
sign up.
It's true. This is, I think, in my opinion, like a very underutilized space. It's just kind of plopped on a website, and I think it can be a conversion opportunity without being pushy. So yeah, I think that's a great point to emphasize. So yeah, as I said, I think this is the money shot right here. Whether it's this or a stylized version of this, just showing people what they will be able to experience, the money being saved. This is what people are caring about. People want to be able to install it and save money. Just put it on autopilot and forget about it. This is not a product that people want to be thinking about on a regular basis. I don't think I need to go into this. Again, customers repeating the two things: make it easy and show me how I'm going to make some money or save some money. And here, I think this is where we have an opportunity.
Yeah. Sorry.
Are you talking about the pricing table?
The pricing page. Yeah. Shall we embed it or shall we not? That's the question.
Yeah. For a product like this, I don't mind embedding it here, just because this is a very simple transactional purchase. It's people just want to know that it's going to be easy to install, easy to undo, and that it's going to save me money because, this isn't a product that they're going to be interacting with all the time. So the main thing is to show them that they can install it and start saving some money. But I do think there's an opportunity here to make this a little more persuasive. So when you mentioned the lower end here, $3.80, it just sounds like, why am I going to spend $2.50 a month to maybe only save $1.30 on top of it? It just seems like hassle. Like, why would I want to introduce something else just to save that kind of money? But I think we can still say this, be honest, but make it a little bit more enticing. And that would be to take the average. So you could say, like, save an average of blah, blah, blah per month up to $22.70 per month. And that would create a little bit more gap between the low end and the actual price per month. For example, here too, like $10 to save $12.50, 75 to save $150. That's a little bit more enticing. But for these two, I would take a look at the average savings and mention the top end, and that would still be accurate. It would still encompass, all the different amounts that you might save in a month, but it's just a little bit more enticing.
From the product standpoint, it feels like the hobby person is just stuck in their hobby plan. And why don't give them more opportunity to save, except that make a higher cut out of it because of their lower plan? Because right now I don't see the way for them to move between plans easily. That's like very big friction point for a lot of SaaS companies out there.
True, true. And actually, one thing, it's too bad the people who submitted this aren't here, but one thing I wondered is, to me, this product perfectly lends itself to like a risk-free offer of, if this is possible on the back end, I'm not the technical person, to do a percentage play where people are going to save money guaranteed, because if their savings are $0, then auto idle makes $0, and if their savings are $1,000, they would make some percentage of that, and so their incentives would be well aligned at that point.
Yeah, like Gumroads, Play,
Yep.
Upwork, all those people, they do like. I don't agree always with that ethically, because on the lower end they take a bigger cut, but
Right.
at least those people don't have to put up dollars up front.
Right, right. Yeah. So yeah, I think that would be something to consider, if that guarantee of saving 50% or more isn't actually something we can guarantee. A switch to a percentage play would be interesting. It might allow you to make a little bit more money, but it would definitely allow you to align your incentives with theirs. And I'll glaze over this quickly, but I think we're just introducing some negative language here that doesn't have to be here. We're not lying by taking it away. We're just not putting a spotlight on it. So for example, as a developer, I probably don't want to hear, usually, and error messages and fix. I think we could cut that and just change your app's domain to yourapp.autoidle.com instead of your app, blah, 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 to avoid any error messages. Same thing with the next section. I think we can make this sound a little bit better by cutting out some of the negative language and just saying it only takes 5 to 10 seconds for auto idle to restart an app. Still accurate. It's just de-emphasizing some of the negatives there. And yeah, last point, for your call to action, you might be able to say something like install and save. That would sort of emphasize one of the things that people are expecting from this tool. Any questions on that one before I move on?
We are good. Let's move forward. And the next one up is HR Partner, hrpartner.io.
All right, perfect. I will try to move even faster here. Okay, so make sure simple means what you think it means. I think you're trying to say it doesn't include a whole bunch of features that you're not going to use and a long learning curve. What people might see this as, especially because your concern was that you're not getting enough customers in the 100 to 300 person range, they might see this as something they're going to quickly outgrow. And so they might as well just go with the more complicated solution now and grow into it versus having to switch, a year or two from now. So just make sure through customer interviews and getting in touch with your customers that this is saying what you think it's actually saying. 2 here, if you can avoid pricing being the thing that you're competing on, I think that's always best. Price tag might help them make the decision at that point where they're actually putting the credit card down. But when I took a quick look at your some of your customer reviews on Capterra, they weren't talking about how cheap HR Partner is. I'm sure they like that part, but what they were talking about was, how easy it was to use, how they got up and running in like hours versus taking like months to onboard to something far more complex. They talked about your amazing customer support and how personal it was and how knowledgeable they were. So I would let those things be the star rather than competing on price, because you might find through tests that you're able to charge more for your product than you are, and people are happily ready to pay that. But if you're competing on price, that's going to annoy the types of customers that are actually signing up.
Let's not even start where, people are more willing to buy and adopt with a higher price tag and all that jazz. So.
It's true. It's very counterintuitive, but it is definitely true in many cases. And I imagine it's definitely true for something as central to a business such as HR software, where my wife works in HR, so I know how clunky that software can be and how hard it can be to make a switch if you get it wrong. So yeah.
Sorry for a small sales pitch. We had a special episode about building software for HR companies at Better Done Than Perfect podcast recently. I'm going to drop the link in the chat, where like Johnny Birch is like, this is so hard to sell to HR because they are being sold to all the time, and they also don't make any decisions, and it's just an overall big challenge.
Definitely. Yeah, it's hard. And the one thing that I haven't been emphasizing as much, because I've been trying to whip through these, is one common thing, and I touched on at the beginning, is telling what I like to call the category story, especially in something like HR software or Delight Chat, who's in live chat. These are and proposal software like Newsy. These are very crowded spaces, and so you're not just trying to get a place in their decision set. The 3 to 5 companies that are thinking about. You need to show why you're not only a good decision, good enough to be in their decision set, but why you're the choice and why these other companies aren't the choice. And so I would push a little bit harder, pick a bit of a fight, look at some companies like use Fathom Analytics, Hey.com did a good job of it. There's plenty of others I could probably share after. I have a growing document of companies that are picking fights. And really go deep on your niche. If you're focused on that small to medium sized business, really show them that you understand their specific pain points and that you solve them in a way that these other companies are just never going to do, and just make that crystal clear. So I call that telling a category story. Others might call it something else. Little side note here.
Do you have any resources or blog posts about the category story?
No, I did. I bought the domain recently though, so it is something I plan on talking about more.
Very nice.
Just because it's something that kind of came up organically with clients. I was trying to think of a nice succinct way to talk about what I was trying to say, which is, most companies stop at telling their story, and what that does is it forces customers to then go to 3 to 5 other companies who also only tell their story. Then they have to synthesize this story, and then you hope that they give you the starring role and they pick you. Whereas my hypothesis is that it's far more powerful if you tell your story and you make an attempt to tell the other companies that they're probably considering, and you tell their story, and you talk about the baggage that these customers are coming with, and that story is all in one place, and then you give yourself the starting role for a specific type of customer. And I mean, this saves on some of the research if you're able to make it believable and back up your points, and it just increases the chances of them choosing you versus hoping. So yeah, I do plan to talk a lot more about this, definitely.
We do have Delight Chat's head of product in
Oh,
the chat. So
awesome.
if we can wrap up this one
Sure. Yes.
somehow and
Yeah.
proceed with the next one, that'd be amazing. Even
Yeah.
though like we didn't go below hero section.
No. Well, I'll whip through this because this, I mean, this is a document. I can share it with them, and they can read this if they want. So I'll do some of the high level points that I think are important for everybody. This section right here, I think there's like 4 different call to actions here. That's a big no-no. For one, this banner is clickable to get this discount. I didn't even know it was clickable. I had to kind of like hover around and figure that out. It does not look like a button to me. And then there's a free trial button here and a check your pricing here, which, as I said, you don't need to help people find your pricing page. They will find your pricing page. And then you can click over to reviews as well. So really decide on what is the main call to action. And speaking of call to actions, I think I make a highlight down here. These are evenly weighted, in my opinion. Which one do you want people to choose? Make that one more visible, and the other one could be like, like a ghost button or an underlined link or something like that. And let's just whip through here. So this section, the main thing that I see here is that we're a platform, and we're pointing people as soon as possible to specific feature pages. And what this will do is it will encourage people to get a fragmented view of what it is the HR platform does. So rather than pointing to these pages at this point, again, if people have a specific thing, like they want to know all about custom forms, have a features tab at the top and allow people to select that. But instead, let's try to keep them on this homepage and help them get an overview of what it is about HR Partner that makes them especially suited to their target market of small to medium-sized businesses.
I love this advice for the feature pages. So don't diverge people there unless necessary.
Exactly. Otherwise, they'll read 2 of your 10 feature pages, go to your pricing, and they just don't really have a good idea of what it is your price is attached to. Again, common theme. If you have a call to action, anything you can do to de-risk or at least demystify what's on the other side of the click, that's great. Integrate seamlessly with your apps. I think I mentioned that. Pull out some of the most popular integrations. You're getting a start at it here, but these are some of the things that people are actually paying for, up and running in hours, not weeks. That this deserves to be in a better place than 85% through your page in a little section like this. These are the types of things we should be going deep on. Support, these are things we should be going deep on. And then, that stripped down feature set that only includes the things that they need in the short learning curve that comes along with it. I would pull that out and go a little bit harder on that as well. Again, common theme, don't introduce doubt if you don't have to. I don't think there's any reason for us to assume that we have to talk about them being not sure if HR Partners for them. It's early. We can cut that out and see reviews and case studies. It's much more positive and it's still accurate. All right. So yeah, there we go. That's Delight Chat. All right. So I'm glad we have the founder here for this.
Let me bring Divina. Let me bring them on screen. So we're gonna have a conversation.
Awesome.
Getting ready. Here's a great example, by the way, of those styled screenshots. Again, you see that everything is
Yes.
like schematic, and yeah, that
Hmm.
takes ages to build. I know, but it looks like it's worth it.
Definitely. And I do like this. I feel like a mix between what we see here and what we see like here is good. So
There's
yeah.
there's Divina. Hey, how do you pronounce your name?
Hi, hey Jane, it's Divina.
Okay,
Davina.
Divina. Sorry. Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too, finally. I've signed up on Userlist, by the way. We're just completing our final integrations, so hoping to get done today for sure.
Awesome.
Perfect. So I'm going to, because we only have 9 minutes, I'm going to have to move fairly quickly, but I'll make this document available to Jane, and she can have it sent over to you so you can actually read through each of the comments. And if
Sure,
you have any questions afterwards, feel free to email me. I'm in and out of the office right now, but I'll make sure that I do get to it.
I'll do that.
Perfect. So just starting from the top here, I think this headline is a little bit vague, and I think at the bottom, I see a word or a phrase that should probably be included, an e-commerce help desk. I imagine this is what people are looking for when they find you. And if that is correct, I would include that in the headline so that as soon as someone lands on this website, they know exactly what type of software they're looking at here.
Got it. Yes, it is for e-commerce, but fair call out. It's just that we've now started to get a lot of unique user personas, like people who are using our tool for, personal productivity as well. So we
Hmm.
thought, is this the right time to add e-commerce or not? But I think that's a fair call out.
No, so that brings up I think a dilemma a lot of bootstrap companies come to, and that is there's these other opportunities. Do we take them? And I think that answer really depends on your goal. So if your goal is to remain self-funded, I'm personally a fan of going as deep as you can into a space and just completely knocking it out of the park that space in a way that someone who's more broadly focused could never focus because they would alienate so many of their customers. So I guess for you, it's going to be an internal question for you guys. Do you go all in on e-commerce live chat and be the best that you can be in that space, or is it time to broaden your horizons and potentially risk being mediocre in a bunch of different spaces? That depends on so many things beyond what we can get into today. But
Sure.
yeah, that is the question. So one thing I just want to call out that I like here, I like that you call out, that it is a 14-day free trial and that the setup is quick. That's sort of de-risking what happens after the click, which I mentioned. As Jane said, I mean, this is a great image. It gives me an idea of what you're doing. I would maybe combine what you've done here with, some of these arrows with the comments, just because I'm not completely sure what I'm looking at with these symbols and what's going on over here and over here. So, maybe 3 little arrows or 2 arrows that call out each of these columns would be awesome. For a product demo, right now what happens when I click on this is I go to another page and it's about 12 minutes. And I believe there's like 2 or 3 minutes at the beginning where there isn't much happening. And that's because it looks like it's a recorded webinar, potentially, where you had people attending. So instead, what I would do is I would boil that down to something a little shorter. And again, this does take some work, but if you take a look at what a client of mine did, tomsplanner.com, if you look at some of their videos, you'll see how they really take you through the product in a faster, more efficient way, but they still show all the main points, and it's far easier on the eyes than watching just a screen recording it in real time.
Got it.
So
Got it.
tomsplanner.com, I would take a look at the videos that they've got on their site.
I'll do that. In
Mhm.
fact, Jane's video on user list is also has been a great reference for us for sure. Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I'll have to take a look.
We've replaced our majority of our demos with pre-recorded demos, and
Oh,
it's
okay.
it's 10 minutes, and you can actually make it as short as, I don't know, 2, 3. We had the tour like that before, so
Oh,
really go for a shorter one.
that's awesome.
I actually pulled up the link to Tom's planner too, in case anyone wants to take a look.
Perfect. Yeah. So, I mean, if you scroll down their page a little bit, you'll see a video there that I think does a really good job. It's narrated and really easy to watch. Number 6. So these logos are nice, but I think what would be even better, because I think you are in a very crowded space, at least the live chat in general space is quite crowded. I like these testimonials that are way down here. For example, this one here that talks about switching from Freshdesk. I mean, Freshdesk is huge. If people are switching from them to you, you're onto something, right? So I would want to put something like that up here and highlight it so that someone who is considering the incumbents like Freshdesk or using them, which is probably most people. I doubt there's many people looking for a live chat software that hasn't heard of Freshdesk. They can see that there's reasons here to choose you over them. So I think that would be a powerful thing to include up here. I don't call it out. Yeah, I don't call it out, but I like how you touch on some of these problem spaces here. That's nice. Love this image as I go into more detail. I really like how you point to things. It's really easy to look at. Again, product demo. I don't know if I would hide it on another page, and I would make it a little bit easier to watch.
So there are only about 50%, actually 35% of the people who go to the end of the landing page. Is that a good number? Is that not a good number?
I mean, that's one of those it depends spaces. If they're not getting to the bottom of the page because they're making a decision and signing up, that's excellent. Ideal world is the right people are signing up before they even scroll, and then all the other work that I do gets ignored. That's amazing, but that never happens. So some people are going to be very motivated and they're going to sign up here. Some people are going to be motivated and they're going to be the wrong customer. They're going to sign up above the fold, and then we're going to lose people as we go down the page. And that's totally okay. So 35% to the bottom is fine. If that number increases, that's okay too, as long as we're not decreasing the number of good people who are signing up, because sometimes the reason people get to the bottom of the page is because you haven't told them what they need to hear yet. So it's a very much it depends type situation.
Makes sense, Rush, yeah.
Yeah. So for this headline, and just something to keep in mind, is make sure that it's saying what you think it's saying. So what I think you're saying is that, you can talk to your customers across all of your channels in one place. But without something like that in one place, when you say talk to your customers on every channel, I can do that without Delight Chat. It's just going to be chaotic. It's going to be in a bunch of different tabs. So I can do this without Delight Chat. So I feel like a little bit more clarity around the headline would be useful here. And 8 here, this is the beginning of what I see throughout this section, and that is basically listing features and capabilities with lots of commas. And this typically happens when we are focusing too much on features and not enough on the higher level story about why this is the right product for somebody like your ideal customer. And it also happens when we're not sure which features and capabilities are the most important. And so the easiest way to make sure that the most important things are included is to just include everything. So if you were my client, I would definitely want to go a little bit deeper, and rather than just listing features, we do them here too. You can see a bunch of commas. I'd want to go a little bit deeper on the story and focus out from those specific features and just show them that I understand their problems, their pain points, and we have high level solutions to those. And then if they want to learn about those features, that's what feature pages and product tours are for. But this is the homepage. We're just trying to show them that they're in the right place.
Totally agree with you on the priority of the feature set. To be honest, it's something that we internally as well debate, and something for us to, work upon. If a third party like you is actually just taking a quick look and figuring that out, it's definitely a call out for us.
Yeah, for sure. And this is really small. Like I said, I love these images that you've included here, but if it isn't immediately available or immediately obvious to people, a small little verses, because this is like a versus situation, could show that this is talking about your life right now. This is about it after or before and after. Call out might help. But if it is obvious to people, more obvious than it was to me, then don't worry about that. Disregard that feedback. 10, something I've already spoken about, contextual social proof. So rather than having it down here, almost at the bottom of the page where, like you said, probably 35 to 40% of people are going to see it, include inline testimonials, contextual social proof that backs up what we're saying. So the social proof should match the headline and the copy here in terms of the overall message.
Okay.
Just a small little call out here, back and forth 200 times a month. I feel like I'm either misunderstanding this or you're underestimating it, because to me, going back and forth with someone 200 times over 30 days isn't much. I probably text my wife who lives with me more than 200 times a month. So if there's a way to make this a little bit more daunting while still being accurate, I would look into that.
I'm super sorry to cut you all short,
No
but
problem.
we have to wrap this up, unfortunately.
No problem.
We will make a blog post or something where we will put up all the notes so that everybody can access them. Thanks
Sure.
so much for joining. Josh, thanks for the amazing advice. Davina, thanks for jumping on screen, being brave. And maybe we can make this happen again. Let's see. Really enjoyed it. Thanks so much, Josh.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I wish I could have spoken to people a little bit more, but we were just motoring through those. So if anyone has questions, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at swaycopy.com, and I'll check in and answer some questions whenever I can.
And where is the website or something where people can get more of your wisdom?
Sure, swaycopy.com. And then on Twitter at swaycopy. Those would probably be the best two places to find me right now. And if that idea of category story, which I didn't get to go into too much detail, is of interest, just hit me either through email or on Twitter, and I'll make note of it so that when I actually launch that and start talking about it, I can let you know.
Thanks so much. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.